Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? Today we're going to tackle this super interesting paper called Monte Carlo Tree Diffusion for System 2 Planning.
Yeah, this is one that really caught my eye.
I know, right? It sounds kind of complex at first, but it's basically about how to get AI to do some really smart planning, the kind of we humans do when we're like really thinking things through.
Yeah, exactly. Like figuring out a tricky strategy in a game or planning a route through a city with tons of traffic.
Exactly. And apparently the way AI does that now isn't always the best.
Yeah, it's like they have two separate ways of doing. Oh wait, someone wants to join. Hey, go for it.
In the beginning, can we give a high-level intuition with few key points, give some details, and explain these points?
Absolutely, I can do that for you.
Yeah, let's give you the 30,000-foot view to start.
Okay, so at its heart, this paper is trying to solve a problem.
And that problem is that AI isn't great at planning.
It's like AI can do impressive things, but
And when it comes to complex long-term planning, it struggles.
exactly, like if you ask an AI to plan a road trip,
It might be able to find the fastest route,
but it wouldn't necessarily consider things,
like cool detours or interesting stops along the way.
right? It's missing that human element of planning.
And that's where Monte Carlo Tree Diffusion comes in.
It's trying to give AI a more human-like approach to planning.
By combining the best parts of two different AI methods.
Diffusion models and Monte Carlo Tree Search, or MCTS.
Diffusion models generate many different possibilities.
MCTS helps to evaluate and refine those possibilities.
MCTD brings them together for more strategic planning.
So that's the big picture. Does that make sense to you?
Hopefully that's a helpful overview.
And we'll dive into all the details as we go.
Yeah, we'll get into the nitty-gritty.
But first, where were we?
Right, we were about to talk about the problems with AI planning.
Okay, back to the original plan.
Right, each has its problems.
On the one hand, you got diffusion models.
They're great at coming up with tons of possibilities.
Oh, I see. So they're like the ideas people.
Right, but they're not so good at picking which ideas are good.
On the other side, you have Monte Carlo Tree Search, or MCTS.
MCTS is the opposite. It carefully evaluates and picks the best.
MCTS, got it. So what's that one all about?
It can be slow and get stuck in a narrow way of thinking.
So it's like the super meticulous planner.
Exactly. And that's what makes this paper so cool.
Oh, wow. So it's like taking the best of both worlds
Yeah, exactly. It takes ideas from diffusion models.
and refines them to see which ones are worth pursuing.
Okay, that's starting to make sense.
Can you walk us through the basics of MCTD?
Sure. So imagine AI planning as exploring a huge tree.
A tree? Okay, I'm listening.
Each branch represents a different possible sequence of actions.
Right, so like all the different choices the AI could make.
Exactly. Diffusion models are like throwing darts at this tree.
Oh, so it's like just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah. MCTS is meticulously exploring each branch of the tree.
But that sounds like it could take forever if the tree's really big.
It can, and that's where MCTD comes in.
Okay, I see. So instead of exploring every branch randomly,
Exactly, and it uses this really cool technique.
go be denoising. What's that?
You don't need every detail to see if it's worth pursuing.
Right, you just need the basic idea.
Exactly. Jumpy denoising is like that.
Oh, that's smart.
And it also uses guidance levels to help it balance.
So it's like having a coach.
Exactly. It's a really elegant way to combine the strength.
This all super interesting.
Me too. And the exciting part is how this could solve real problems.
Oh yeah, robotics. That's where things always get really cool.
Okay, well, imagine robots that can navigate complex environments
Oh wow, yeah.
and not just following pre-programmed paths.
So like they're actually thinking for themselves?
Or think about robots that could assist in search and rescue.
Wow, that's incredible.
It does, but the potential is definitely there.
Okay, now my mind is officially blown.
Before we dive into all the amazing possibilities, let's take a look.
Selection, expansion, simulation, and backpropagation.
Perfect. Let's break down each step.
Sounds good. Let's start with selection.
All right, so imagine we're standing at the base of that tree.
Got it. And each branch represents a different plan, right?
Exactly, and selection is all about choosing a branch.
Okay, I see. But how does MCTD actually decide?
Not at all. It uses this clever thing called UCB.
UCB, all right. And what does that do exactly?
Well, sometimes you might try a new route home.
Yeah, sometimes there's a surprise shortcut.
Exactly. That's what UCB does for MCD.
I like that.
Exactly. UCB adds a little bonus to branches.
That makes a lot of sense. So once we've selected a branch,
That brings us to the expansion step.
okay, so we're basically growing the tree.
Ah, great question.
Oh, so it's like giving the AI a chance to be creative.
Exactly. The diffusion model samples a new subplan.
Okay, I see.
Precisely. In that case, the diffusion model is still generating.
Oh, right, the reward function.
Exactly. And the choice between no guide and guide is important.
Gotcha. So those guidance levels are like the conductor,
That's where the simulation step comes in.
right? It'd be like spending hours cooking a meal.
Exactly. And that's where jumpy denoising comes.
So instead of meticulously evaluating each step,
You got it.
got it. So the reward function is like a judge.
Not at all. That leads us to the final step.
Oh, that's cool.
Exactly. The higher the score from simulation.
Okay, now I see the whole cycle.
You nailed it.
This is seriously mind-blowing.
Ah, robotics. That's where it gets really exciting.
Like not just following a pre-programmed path.
Exactly.
This is starting to sound like science fiction.
Well, we're definitely making progress.
So it's like we're building the bridge.
Exactly. And as we keep making progress.
Okay, now my mind is racing.
Ah, yes. That's a really key finding.
That's what I'm wondering.
Well, not quite any problem, but the results were impressive.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right. And importantly, it outperformed those other methods.
So it's like MCTD is better at utilizing that extra power.
It really comes down to that clever combination.
Okay, that makes sense.
The perfect analogy. And what's even more promising?
Wait, so you're saying it actually became more efficient?
Well, think about it this way.
So it's like learning from experience.
Absolutely. Imagine a robot working in a warehouse.
Right, it's not just about picking up a box.
Exactly.
Okay, that's seriously impressive.
That's definitely a possibility.
Wow, that would be revolutionary.
Well, computational power is still a major factor.
Right, because having a brilliant plan is useless.
Exactly. But researchers are tackling these challenges.
This whole conversation has been absolutely fascinating.
It's been an incredible journey, and this...
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
Hey, can we explain the diffusion process with the state? What's in the state?
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
Great question. Let's unpack the state.
Okay, so in the context of this paper,
We are discussing diffusion models generating trajectory,
the state is really all about the position.
the position of the object or agent at a particular time.
The diffusion process is how we arrive at that position.
Right. Remember how we're talking about adding noise?
It's like blurring an image
Exactly. And then the diffusion model learns to reverse it.
to unblur the image, so to speak.
And in doing so, it figures out how to get to that state.
So you start with a bunch of noise,
The model slowly refines it until it reaches the goal,
and this all happens within a latent space.
which is a lower dimensional representation.
So what's neat is that the diffusion model is being used.
Using the prior steps to figure out the next steps.
So that's how we arrive at a particular state.
Hopefully that helps clarify things.
It's like we're building the bridge as we go.
Now, before we dive into all the possibilities.
Selection, expansion, simulation, and backpropagation.
Perfect. Let's break down each step.
Sounds good. Let's start with selection.
All right, so imagine we're standing at the base.
Got it. And each branch represents a different plan, right?
Exactly. And selection is all about choosing a branch.
Okay, I see. But how does MCTD actually decide?
Not at all. It uses this clever thing called UCB.
UCB, all right. And what does that do exactly?
Well, sometimes you might try a new route.
Yeah, sometimes there's a surprise shortcut.
Exactly. That's what UCB does for MCTD.
I like that.
Exactly. UCB adds a little bonus to branches.
That makes a lot of sense. So once we've selected,
That brings us to the expansion step.
okay, so we're basically growing the tree.
Ah, great question.
Oh, so it's like giving the AI a chance to be creative.
Exactly. The diffusion model samples a new subplan.
Okay, I see.
Precisely. In that case, the diffusion model is still generating.
Oh, right, the reward function.
Exactly. And the choice between no guide and guide is important.
Gotcha. So those guidance levels are like the conductor,
That's where the simulation step comes in.
right? It'd be like spending hours cooking a meal.
Exactly. And that's where jumpy denoising comes.
So instead of meticulously evaluating each step,
You got it.
got it. So the reward function is like a judge. Oh, yeah. Go on.
Yeah, can we jump to the experimental?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's jump to the experiments.
Sure. I am excited to talk about the experiment section.
Okay, so remember we were talking about robots.
Yeah, MCTD is beneficial to robotic tasks.
MCTD was put to the test.
Right. So the researchers used something,
The offline goal conditioned RL benchmark, or OG bench.
which is like a standardized set of tests.
They wanted to see how well MCTD could handle
These tests cover maze navigation with robots.
manipulating objects, even dealing with partial views.
The researchers wanted to push MCTD to its limits.
Let's dive into some of the specific tasks they used.
Starting with maze navigation.
Okay, so imagine a maze.
Right, they used both a simple point mass robot.
So how did MCTD do in these maze tasks?
It was really impressive. MCTD excelled.
Because the mazes are so large, the agents need long paths.
Exactly. Now, I want to talk about the visual point maze.
Okay, so what's different about this one?
The agent only sees the maze through images.
Oh, wow. So it's like trying to navigate with a blurry map
Exactly. And MCTD was able to handle.
because it could still plan effectively.
I want to point something out.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
The MCTD consistently outperformed.
So it's not just about brute force.
Right. It's about using that power.
It's really impressive.
Exactly. And they even found a trend.
Wait, so you're saying it actually became more efficient?
It found better solutions, even with more complexity.
So it's like learning from experience.
Exactly. It's becoming a smarter explorer.
Yeah, let's get concrete. How could we use?
Sure. Imagine a robot working in a warehouse.
Right, it's a lot more than just picking up a box.
Exactly. And that's where MCTD comes in.
Okay, so it's not just about planning.
Absolutely. Imagine a surgical robot.
Wow, that would be incredible.
Well, computational power is still a major factor.
Right, because in those real-world scenarios,
Exactly. And then there's the challenge of integrating MCTD.
it's like having a brilliant strategy.
Exactly. But I'm confident that.
Well, this has been a truly mind-blowing deep dive.
I couldn't agree more.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep exploring.
And keep those deep dives going.
We were just talking about those tests they did.
We hope you learned something new.
Thanks for tuning in, too. Oh, go for it. Absolutely. Let's wrap up the key takeaway.
Okay, so if you boil it all down,
The main point is this paper introduces a new way.
combining diffusion models and Monte Carlo Tree Search,
Yeah, and it's called Monte Carlo Tree Diffusion.
MCTD, got it. So what makes it so special?
Solves the test time compute scalability issue.
So it can handle more complex problems as you give it.
Yeah, and it does that by 3 key innovations.
Denoising is tree rollout, right?
Guidance levels as meta actions.
I like that one. Sounds fancy.
Yeah, and finally jumpy denoising as fast simulation.
Fast simulation. Okay, I see.
It all boils down to more strategic planning.
And it's also better at exploring.
I think that captures it.
That makes sense. It's all about robots.
Now that we've covered the experiments,
We hope you learned something new.
thanks for tuning in and for the great questions.
And keep those deep dives going.
Until next time, keep exploring.
That's all the time we have for today.
Have a wonderful rest of your day.
We'll see you next time.
Good day.